Shadow Sonic Generations comes out today, and I will not be playing it. If you recall from my last video, I am broke. So yeah, not happening. But I thought now would be the perfect time to revisit the game in which Shadow was introduced, Sonic Adventure 2. For those of you unaware, Sonic Adventure 2 is a pet raising simulator wherein Sonic and company go on an adventure to collect resources for said pets. It's 100% what it is. I delivered it with a straight face, so you gotta fucking believe me. The adventure in Sonic Adventure 2 is split up between 3 different playstyles: the Sonic and Shadow action stages, the Tails Eggman mech stages, and the Knuckles Rouge treasure hunting stages. But I will be spitting on the decisions of the developers today, because I'm gonna be running Shadow through all of this shit. I'm ignoring everybody's playstyle. Shadow's gonna play everything, because I wanna know if he truly is the ultimate life form. I wanna know, can Shadow solo Sonic Adventure 2? First things first, we already know Shadow can play through all the Shadow stages, so I'm not going to be replaying them here. If you're looking for fucking footage of me replaying all the Shadow stages, it's not happening. Here's a little bit of Skyrail. That's all you get. Good? That's it. We're moving on. Taking things over to the Sonic levels, everything goes pretty smoothly up until we get to Crazy Gadget. In this game, Sonic gets 2 upgrades to his kit that Shadow does not get. One of them is not super important, but the other one is required to progress through these last 2 levels. Normally when you play through Pyramid Cave, Sonic gets an upgrade called the Bounce Bracelet. And the Bounce Bracelet basically gives him a little bit more height to his jump, and also acts as a ground pound for certain situations. Interestingly enough, you don't need the Bounce Bracelet to finish out the level in which you get that Bounce Bracelet. A little bit of clever play here and there gets you through. But anyway, without the Bounce Bracelet, Shadow can't progress through Crazy Gadget or Final Rush. So that's it then already, right? We can't get through Sonic levels, so that's it for the Sonic levels, right? Huh? Haha, nope! We're gonna cheat the Bounce Bracelet on this Shadow, and now that boy can bounce. Wow! So now that Shadow has the Bounce Bracelet upgrade, we can clear these levels as normal.
I guess I'm not at full power here.
Moving on to the mech levels, the first 2 we got up are Prison Lane and Iron Gate. And what's interesting is both of these kind of act as like a tutorial of how I need to start thinking to complete this challenge. A lot of what ends up happening in the mech levels and much of this playthrough is problem solving through questioning how far I can push Shadow's movement and also the game itself. If I go fast enough, can I get under these locked doors? If I get to an area that the original character can't get to, is there going to be collisions there? Can I use the most of my speed to clear a jump with Shadow where other characters are meant to fly? And most importantly, will the camera fucking work with me for fuck's sake or not? The main problem that came with solving Prison Lane was figuring out how to open up these gates that are locked behind enemy death triggers. So it became a question of how can I get Shadow to kill something at a distance, and the only solution I came up with was cheating in Sonic's other upgrade onto his toolkit, Magic Hands. With Magic Hands, I was able to either grab an enemy from the other side of the gate, or also use an enemy to throw, alley-oop that shit onto another enemy, and I got through the majority of the level this way. Now, even with that solution, unfortunately, in the very last stretch of Prison Lane, there's a section you can't get through, or at least I couldn't figure out how to get through. There are 3 mechs on the other side of this gate. Now you can get the first 2 killed by magic handing the first one or throwing an enemy at it. You can get the second one by getting the third one to shoot it, but you can't get the third one, so the gate won't open. I think it's a not clear for Prison Lane. It's a similar story, unfortunately, with Iron Gate. I did feel a little bit confident because most of the doors that normally lock and come down on Eggman, with Shadow you're fast enough to get past them, but there are 2 doors after the second elevator that just are closed before you ever get there. You can glitch through the first one, but I couldn't find a way to get past the second one. To my knowledge, these are the only 2 doors that act this way, so if there's a way to glitch past this second door, there's a potential of clearing this level. But as of right now, that's a do not clear. That's a no-go on this one. And it ain't happening. Moving on to Weapons Bed and Mission Street. There's not a whole lot to talk about here. They're both easily clearable, almost to the point where they feel like slower action stages with a couple precise jumps here and there. There is one thing that disappointed me with Weapons Bed, and that's if you destroy all the stationary mechs with Shadow, for some reason he doesn't get the combo points, so that was really upsetting to the expected hit of dopamine that I was hoping to get. And then I noticed something that is consistent through all the mech levels when I was playing Mission Street. Shadow looks like a metal Shadow that's shorting out and needs repair. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's because Shadow doesn't have a health bar like the mechs do, so it immediately assumes that you're just broken down. Hidden base goes down as another incompletable level for Shadow. There's a lot of interesting things that do happen here, but ultimately, like, I couldn't find a way to get through to the end. The two methods that I really use to try to get through this level as much as I can is getting Shadow up to areas that Tails normally couldn't, finding out that there's no collisions in those areas, so I was able to skip a lot of things that Shadow normally wouldn't be able to pass through. Then the other thing that came about of just really fucking around and getting to a point where I just didn't know what to do is using the way that Shadow and Sonic behave in quicksand. If you remember from the egg golem fight, Sonic, if you just keep jumping, will move across quicksand, and Hidden Base is all quicksand. So I tried hopping along all of Hidden Base, going under the level, trying to find a way to get to the goal ring, because without it, there's a specific area that you can't get through no matter how hard I try. That one's going down as an incomplete. I did accidentally find Tails' Mystic Melody though, which was pretty neat because I hadn't unlocked that yet. What's funny is I, for a split second, thought it was going to unlock Mystic Melody for Shadow, but it looks like the upgrades are like level dependent. So now Tails has Mystic Melody. Sand Ocean was a really fun one to try to figure out, honestly. It played out a lot like Weapons Bed and Mission Street, where for the most part you can move through it like a slow action level with precise jumps, but then there's specific areas that you really have to think about, like, oh, how am I going to get Shadow to do this? The main one where I almost gave up after trying some problem solving was the booster pads towards the end of the level. Now, the only thing I could assume is that the gravity for the mechs and the gravity for normal non-mech characters are calculated differently, because when Shadow steps on this booster pad, that boy gets launched into oblivion. So I tried hopping through the quicksand, I tried hopping on the fire to see if the fire was real or not, or if it was just a decoration. I tried platforming on these statues here, and I couldn't figure out a way to get across. And then I realized that the booster pad launches him pretty close to the pillars that Eggman normally has to knock down. So if I hug this ledge and just get on the very tiny edge of the booster pad, I could launch Shadow directly into the pillar and use that to stop his forward momentum. And from there, we're good to go. Just one little teeny tiny super bounce, and that's a pass. That's a level clear right there. But unfortunately, after that, everything else is just a big ol' not completable, and it sucks. When it comes to Cosmic Wall, I can't get Shadow over this jump, and I tried super bouncing off of this crate, but it's just too small of a surface for me to make it happen, or maybe I'm not just skilled enough, so I couldn't pass that. And then Lost Colony is immediately dead on arrival because there's these wall mines that you have to blow up to get through the door, and you can't do that as Shadow. I tried glitching through the door, no success. And the last of the space mech levels, Internal Engine, gave me a lot of fucking false hope. Because the thing is, you could get all the way through the level up until the very end. You end up on a platform, whereas Tails, normally you're locked in, you get this like little shooting gallery session where you blast through a wall, and then the platform lets you go and you get to hop across into the goal ring. What ends up happening with Shadow is he just gets locked into this platform and he can't do anything. It's also kind of a soft lock because none of the projectiles hit Shadow because he's not big enough. I even tried bouncing all the way down off this drop onto the platform in the hopes that the bounce would trigger before the locking mechanism did. But nope, it didn't work. And like I mentioned, it's a soft lock when you get here because Shadow can't die. So to even try this theory out, I had to play through the whole level again, and then my footage to capture it is corrupted, and I'm not going through it a third time just to demonstrate. You're just gonna have to take my fucking word for it. So unfortunately, that only makes 3 out of the 7 mech levels clearable by Shadow, which sucks. So here's hoping that the treasure hunting levels go better. Those are always super smooth, even when you play them normally. Those are great. Those are fun. Those are super exciting to replay and clear. I'm trying to get A ranks in these right now, and I just can't. I just fucking can't. Shut it. All right, let's do this. Going into this challenge, the treasure hunting stages were what I was looking forward to the least. But to be honest, they kind of went the smoothest. Starting things off with Wild Canyon, I've got no real complaints. Everything went fairly smoothly. I did soft lock myself at one point, but other than that, no really complicated pieces to speak of. And to be honest, soft locking myself here on the very first level did me a favor, because it allowed me to learn that if you restart the level, all progress is lost on any pieces that you may have found, and resetting the locations of pieces is going to be integral to completing this. The next level, Dry Lagoon, is a perfect place to explain what I'm talking about. The way that the treasure hunting levels work is that there are a set of spawn locations across the entire map where an emerald can spawn. Anytime that there is an emerald piece that falls outside of an area that Shadow can reach, we need to reset that emerald's location. And the best way to do this is by dying. So to complete all these levels, I did a lot of dying. So the reason why I'm explaining this here in Dry Lagoon is because I have to get a very specific set of pieces for this to be done. The reason why I need a specific set of pieces is because every time that Shadow jumps on the turtle to take you to the big oasis, this happens. So I died and died and died and died to see if there was a possibility for me to get all 3 emerald pieces to spawn in just the small oasis. And I gotta be honest, I don't know if it's possible. I'm using a spreadsheet to complete this a lot quicker and to know what pieces I'm going to be running into. And looking through the entire spreadsheet, it doesn't look like there's a way for all 3 pieces to spawn just in the small oasis area. I'm not gonna give this one a full did not finish. I'm going to give this one a maybe, because I can see a world where that possibly all 3 emerald pieces spawn here, but I don't have the fucking patience to do it, so you try it out. I'm moving on. Pumpkin Hill turned out to be the hardest level to navigate, but to be honest, just because it was the hardest level to navigate didn't make it the hardest level to complete. What made this level so hard to navigate is it's definitely built around a character who can fly. Shadow can't do that shit. Unless we're talking about Shadow Generations, I saw in the trailer he gets wings. Don't tell me what happens with that, no spoilers, okay? My main concerns going into Pumpkin Hill was this is where Knuckles gets his digging ability, so I thought I was gonna run into a lot of diggable pieces, but that ended up not happening. And also there was these weird light dashable arrays of rings that I know were not here before. Did I just stumble across some leftover code when the developers were thinking of making every level playable by every character? Did the game know that I was an action-based character as I stepped into Pumpkin Hill? No. Turns out the mod I was using had a patch that stated that treasure hunting levels can now be completed by every character. I'm sorry, but did you see Dry Lagoon? Initially when I found this out, I was worried that this was going to affect kind of what I was expecting with this playthrough of just going through this naturally to see how much can be done as Shadow. But as I got further along, Pumpkin Hill is the only level that really got a true overhaul to it to make it completable with these light dash rings. It's also the only level that unburied buried pieces, because the next level, Aquatic Mine, I had a bunch of buried pieces that I had to keep resetting until I got an uncovered one. So I don't know how much of an overhaul they actually did to make these levels completable. So with Pumpkin Hill cleared, I move on to Aquatic Mine, and unfortunately I start leaning on the mod, thinking that I can go after every buried piece when I see the clue that lines up with the buried piece, but no, it's not the case. Mod patch notes lied to me. All the pieces that are buried normally are still buried normally in Aquatic Mine. But after resetting enough times, I got enough pieces that were uncovered and accessible to Shadow to get our Aquatic Mine completion. Next up is Egg Quarters, which was an absolute dream. I didn't have to reset. I barely had to use the speedrunner spreadsheet to cross-reference clues with, and one of the pieces just spawned right in front of my face as I got in there. I actually spent more time in Egg Quarters hiding from that weird beetle thing than actually looking for the keys until I remembered that, oh yeah, I'm Shadow. I can speed past this thing's lasers and not worry about it. Egg Quarters went so smoothly, I even got an A rank on that shit. That's an easy clear, baby. Now, I think the reason why Egg Quarters was so easy on me is because Death Chamber was a fucking nightmare. The big issue with Death Chamber is that there's a whole section of the level that's completely inaccessible to Shadow. The blue area of Death Chamber can only be reached by digging. So I spent over an hour dying and dying and dying just to reset the Emerald's last location to get to a spot that wasn't in the blue area, that wasn't buried, and accessible to Shadow. And I almost gave up until I finally got a piece that spawned in the central area of Death Chamber. The only problem was it was all the way up on the ceiling. The thing is, I think this is only one of 2 pieces that I can get with the limitations that Shadow has right now, so I wasn't going to reset again. So I did everything I could to figure out how to get to this key. The only solution I was able to come up with was doing an extremely precise super bounce off of this pillar, and then doing a spin dash jump off of this really small platform. All the while, the camera is not cooperating with me. And when I came up with this idea, I wasn't even sure if the spin dash jump could get there. Because the other issue was I kept hitting the top of this thing in the middle of the chamber, so I couldn't jump far enough. And every time I failed to jump, I ended up in the lower area of this chamber where I had to super bounce out of on a curved wall. And that was an additional pain in the ass to add it to my frustration for this level. Just look at the timer. It's already at 20 minutes by the time we get it, but we do get it. With the timer alone saying 20 minutes, that means I spent at least 20 minutes on just this part. Because remember, I was resetting to even get to this point. Security Hall was okay. I was coming off of the frustration of Death Chamber, so I can't really say if it was hard or if I was just annoyed. The main problem here is I kept getting this Chaos Emerald that would spawn way up in the ceiling that was just inaccessible to Shadow. But eventually I got a set of 3 pieces that Shadow could get, given I feel like I got really lucky on the last one. I was worried that the time was going to run out. And if the time did run out, which I let happen one time, it resets all of your emerald progress. And then lastly, it's the space levels, Mad Space and Meteor Herd. And these were the 2 levels I was dreading the most when I even thought about making this video. But to be honest, Meteor Herd went pretty smoothly. The mod definitely helped out here because the last piece I'm almost positive is a piece that's normally buried. There's a chance that this level is not completable without character select plus, but you know what? I'll take it. And then I got down to Mad Space, which just doesn't seem possible. The big issue with Mad Space is there are 2 planets, the Capsule Planet and the Holy Planet, I think it's called in game. There are areas on those planets you're meant to climb. And I kept getting pieces on both of those planets that Shadow just couldn't get to, or at the very least, I couldn't move the camera in a way to find any alternate routes to get to those pieces. I don't think it's possible. If you think it's possible, you go for it. I'm done. That's it. We're done with this shit. But overall, this went a lot better than the mech levels. Out of all the treasure hunting stages, only 2 Rouge levels weren't completable. All right, so that's yeah, that's it. What? You wanted me to talk about Cannon's Core? You want me to go through Cannon's Core? Of course, Cannon's Core is not completable by Shadow. What did you expect, some fucking grand finale where I get Shadow to go through every section? No, here's Cannon's Core. You get in, and the first door is locked by mines. It's not possible. So don't talk to me about Cannon's Core. I'm not talking about Cannon's Core. That's it. I'm not counting it. But seriously, why did they give Rouge jiggle physics? So with all that being said, 20 out of 29 levels, not including the 2 routes that Tails and Rouge do, because obviously Shadow can pass those, so we're not going to count that, and not including Cannon's Core, 20 out of 29 levels, that's 69%. And hey, that's a passing grade. We take those. So, you know, for to answer the question of if Shadow can solo Sonic Adventure 2, I say yes. And you know what? That's, if you like what you heard, give me a chat below, hit the sub button, thumbs up button, tell me, you know, and you know what, enjoy yourself a little Sonic Shadow Generations. Happy Sonic and Shadow Generations Day. I'm gonna be here in Sonic Adventure 2 talking to my chow about how badass Shadow is for being able to complete 69% of the game. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing. I'll see you next time. Enjoy, have fun, rich bastards.